All right, looks like the recording's going, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. This is Rebecca Dallin, the Assistant Superintendent for Stormwater Quality here at the City of Oklahoma City. I'd like to officially welcome everyone to our 8th installment of this Floatables webinar series. We will begin momentarily, so I want to provide a little bit of information to help enhance everyone's experience during the presentation today. In order to reduce background noise, we ask that everyone keep themselves muted during the presentation. If anyone has any questions during the presentation, feel free to type them into chat. Brooke, Varick, and I will be monitoring the chat for questions, and we will have our guest speaker answer as many questions as we have time for today. If anyone would like to receive a certificate of attendance for today's webinar, we do actually have a new contact for these. Please send Heavenly Mendenhall an email to request it, and I'll put her email address into chat right now, so that way you'll have it handy. Each of our presentations in this webinar series will be available within a week or so after the scheduled webinar date on our website under Stormwater Workshops. This section will be called our 2021 Floatables webinar series. And of course, today's session will be the August edition. I'll post a link to that website where you can find those presentations toward the end of today's program. If anyone has any questions at this time, feel free to type them into chat. But without further ado, I will begin the very short Floatables series welcome presentation.
Good afternoon and welcome to our monthly Stormwater Quality webinar series. This is our first attempt at a themed series. We hope everyone is enjoying the presentation so far and is learning something new. Our theme for 2021, as you know, is floatables, blowable trash and materials that could or do end up in a waterway. During this series, you will have the opportunity to hear from several different guest speakers throughout the year, including September's program. We'll have information from the city's water conservation program, in addition to information about trash and litter from Waste Management's environmental consulting team, Simply Stormwater. We'll be rounding out the series with up-and-coming information from the city's sustainability program. This presentation in December will show how the Planning Department prepares for the future of our great city, including their plan to keep Oklahoma City just a little bit greener. We also have more traditional content for our industrial and construction stormwater permittees while tying those subjects into the overall theme. As we've briefly mentioned, each of the presentations will be available online within a week or so after the presentation is aired. It will be available on the workshops section of our Stormwater Quality website. I will post a direct link to that page into chat at the end of today's presentation. Some of our presentations will be live and some will be pre-recorded. We do our best to provide as much detailed, accurate information as possible, while also working with the presenter's strengths and their schedule. We live and work in a beautiful community here in Oklahoma City. For more information about stormwater, what we're up to, and local regulations, be sure to visit our website.
Okay, so today we're going to hear from Dawson McNeil. Dawson is an environmental unit supervisor with the Stormwater Quality Division of the City of Oklahoma City's Public Works Department. He currently manages the Environmental Water Quality section. Dawson has worked with other state agencies, including the Oklahoma Conservation Commission and the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. In 2014, he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Agricultural Science and Natural Resources. Dawson is an avid outdoorsman and currently resides in Perkins, Oklahoma with his wife and 2 daughters, which are very beautiful, I might add. All right. Dawson will be sharing information today about his section's floatable debris removal program, along with information from our streets and drainage divisions regarding debris removal on the Oklahoma River. believe we're also being joined today by Jess Shumway, the city's river manager for the Oklahoma River. And I apologize if I got your information incorrect there, Jess. Anyway, if anyone has any questions during today's presentation, be sure to type them into chat. Dawson, would you please share your screen and begin your presentation?
Yes, Rebecca, thank you for that introduction. Hope everyone's having a good afternoon. Everything look good, Rebecca?
Yep, we can see it. Thank you.
All right. All right, so so as Rebecca said, I'm the environmental unit supervisor for the Oklahoma City environmental section. And let's begin our presentation here. All right, so this might get a little boring, but basically I kind of want to go through the history of why we even have floatables as a program within our section. So I'll try to just read through this real quick for everyone, but basically it started with acts, rules, laws, everything being enacted. And it really started with the 1899 Rivers and Harbors Act. This act was really more focused on navigation than water quality. But basically, then it went into the 1948 Federal Water Pollution Control Act. This actually initiated the federal government involvement in water pollution control. So it actually started allocating funds to the state and local governments for water pollution control and emphasized the state's role in controlling and protecting water resources. At this time, the U.S. Surgeon General was actually charged for developing programs to eliminating and reducing the pollution of the interstate waters. Then during the 1956, 1966 years, several laws were enacted, and they were pretty much focused on providing funding to municipalities to construct wastewater treatment plants. We go into the 1965 Water Quality Act. This basically created the Federal Water Pollution Control Administration and required states to develop water quality standards for interstate waters. At this time, only half of states developed water quality standards by 1971. Enforcement was minimal during this time frame, which led to the formation of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in 1970. And of course, everyone knows EPA was pretty much tasked with enforcing environmental compliance and consolidating federal pollution control activities. The need for a discharge permit program enacted the FWPCA amendments of 1972. And under the requirements of the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System program, a point source may be authorized to discharge pollutants into the waters by obtaining a permit. Now, the the NERP study, which is the Nationwide Urban Runoff Program, this was actually a very interesting study because this was the first comprehensive study of urban stormwater pollution in the U.S. And it pretty much basically started telling everybody like, hey, this is really what's going on with our waters and municipalities. After that, of course, the 1987 Water Quality Act basically was established, and basically it was issuing the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permits to industrial and municipal stormwater discharges. In 1990, EPA actually set forth a final ruling for the NPDES permit application regulations for stormwater discharge to cities with a population of 100,000 or greater. So that's really where we began with our first regulations into regulating municipalities with 100,000 people or more. So right here, basically continuing on, Oklahoma City first permitted with EPA in 1995. So we've been a permitted municipality for over 26 years now. 1997, EPA was originally delegated, or what had originally they had the responsibility over the permitting, and then they eventually delegated it over to ODEQ back in 1997. And of course, 2001, 2017, or 2007, 2013, that's whenever our other permits were issued out to us. And our 2018, our fifth permit was submitted. However, we're still waiting on approval. So as I stated, in 1997, ODEQ received the authority from US EPA to administer the federal natural pollutant discharge elimination system for state permits, federal sites, and pretreatment and biosolids programs. They pretty much adopted the federal regulations, and so our permit is really called the Oklahoma Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. As you can see, I've got some quoted material in there. It basically says, like, co-permittees are hereby authorized to discharge stormwater from the municipal separate storm sewer system. Then a little farther down in the permit, it'll say, in accordance with effluent limitations, monitoring requirements, and other conditions set forth in all these parts within the permit. In the permit, it starts stating like what our goals are. And of course, right there in our discharge goals, we're trying to have no discharge of floatable debris, oil, scums, foam, or grease in other than trace amounts. Within that permit, we also have our stormwater management program. So within this program, this is the program that pretty much will tell us all of our components that we have set aside, basically to limit all these pollutants. So the stormwater management program actually states that we shall include controls necessary to effectively prohibit the discharge of non-storm water into municipal separate storm sewers and reduce the discharge of pollutants from the MS4 to the maximum extent practicable. So this permit is why we're directly involved with controlling floatable debris. And as you can see, we've got 15 components within our stormwater management program. As you read, it goes down into new redevelopment, flood control projects, construction site runoff. Then a little bit further down, we have floatables. So that's one of our main components within our permit that we have to take care of. Just going into basically our stormwater quality division and everyone that's pretty much within it. We've got 6 sections: administrative, construction, environmental, household hazardous waste collection facility, the industrial, and the outreach section. On this slide, I'm basically just letting you guys know that we don't just have floatable debris monitoring, but we also have other programs that we're primarily in charge with. So of course, you can see right there, we've got wet weather analytical monitoring, priority watershed based monitoring, which that ended with our last permit. We're kind of waiting for our new permit to come through. The illicit discharge detection and elimination program, total maximum daily load monitoring, trend and load based monitoring. And this is really going to be our new water monitoring program once the new permit is established. We also conduct bacteria monitoring along the Oklahoma River. We also have the adult mosquito surveillance and larvicide application program, storm drain curb marking, floatable debris monitoring, and then we're also assigned special projects such as BMP installation and monitoring. Some of those special projects include with our sand filters and also our hydrodynamic separators. Some of our shared responsibilities we have, which is our waterway clean sweep program, and we're trying to spread that out to other sections, which Brooke Varick, our program coordinator, she actually has a large part in this waterway clean sweep, and she does a really good job coordinating it. We also deal with the pesticide general permit, and then of course our pollution complaints and spill response program. All of the sections are pretty much involved with that. So for floatable materials, really, there's so many definitions out there that people have. This definition, people actually state floatable materials is defined as any foreign matter that may float or remain suspended in the water column. I believe New York, they actually state that floatables is just man-made materials. And of course, so depending on your definition, it can be composed of natural or man-made materials. The picture to the far right that you can see, it's just a mix of everything there is right there. So according to this definition, not all floatable materials is trash. Sometimes we can deal with trees that's like basically been eroded, from the side of a stream, a 60-foot walnut tree or something that was washed out. And then of course we also can deal with like fridges or cars, mattresses, you name it, coming down the creek and getting stuck into our debris barriers or wherever. Let's see here. And so $11.5 billion was spent to clean up litter in the U.S.
Actually, it's overtaking. The new board is overtaking now. So.
Sorry, I can hear someone's feedback.
Yeah, we're able to get that pretty.
I think I got him muted.
Okay, thank you.
We try to keep an eye on that. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I apologize for that. So $11.5 billion is spent to clean up litter in the U.S., and that was according to the Keep America Beautiful. However, reported by the Public Works Department, the Oklahoma River Maintenance Crew workload for 2016 and 2017, it cost an estimated of $138,000 to remove over 500 tons of debris in the Oklahoma River. And like I said, the debris, it's not just, we're not just talking about just trash on this. They're removing large trees, all kinds of stuff that's basically floating, getting caught up in the waterways and stuff. And of course, visible roadside litter is down 61% since 1969. However, litter and littering behavior still is remaining a persistent and costly problem. All right. So where is it all coming from? Illegal dumping and littering. And of course, depending on your definition of what floatable materials is, sometimes you can have just people throwing out grass clippings, tree limbs, all kinds of stuff, and it'll, of course, get into the waterways and float down. Next thing you know, it can even get caught up in our storm drains, blocking any water going through it, and then we have flooding in our streets. We also get people that will dump like pet waste. Also have had people that's dumped their horse waste and stuff off the side. And so you'll have that floating down the stream with all the straw and all that kind of stuff. The stormwater discharges, that's pretty much just rainwater that's just pushing any trash down the curb lines and going into our stormwater sewer overflows. You're going to get toilet paper and all kinds of stuff that people's flushed down, some kid's little toy or something that they've been missing, or who knows. Homeless encampments, we see a lot of our trash coming from homeless encampments. And of course, you can call it in, and then they just move from site to site. So that's a problem that's really hard to get a grasp of. Inadequate disposal receptacles. I mean, that's just, you basically that picture that you see up on the top left, and that was one I just recently took. Most of these pictures that you see on here I took within the last couple of weeks, just driving around. And then landfills, of course, just blowable trash going into the storm drain and then landing up into the creeks. Also want to make mention, to keep people responsible for their actions. Since we respond to hazardous spills and complaints, we deal with a lot of record companies, and a lot of times you'll have record companies, and they'll tend to leave the scene of an accident without properly cleaning up any debris like their glass, oil, trash, tires, vehicle parts. I mean, it's just a mess sometimes. So I just want you to be aware of that. They are responsible for cleaning up that waste. And so they've got state ordinances. Oklahoma City has ordinances. This is the Oklahoma City ordinance that each record driver dispatched to the scene of an accident shall be responsible for clearing from the street all debris existing as a result of such accident, including any ordinary vehicle fluids found at scene of collisions and absorbing material used to absorb vehicle fluids as allowed by law. So I just want you to be aware of that. I mean, it's coming from everywhere, and there's a lot of people that just don't care. Here's some of our floatable programs citywide. As you can see, the active ones that we have: Adopt a City Street, Adopt a Park, Waterway Clean Sweep, catch basin inserts, catch basin cleaning, hydrodynamic separator, end of pipe nets, end of pipe booms. We've got anti-littering fines laws, litter baskets, trash receptacles, street sweeping, shoreline cleaning, and an educational campaign. And we've got a few that's in study, and then of course in development. So here's some of the main departments that actually have some sort of a floatable program. So we've got Public Works, Utilities, Parks and Recreation, and then there's volunteer activities that's kind of just throughout the whole, like all departments of the city. So pretty much all the information that I have gathered from these dates, we've collected over 42,000 tons of floatable material, debris. And as you can see, from 2010 to 2020, street sweeping, I mean, it just like blew out everyone. 35,000 tons, which of course, that also begs to differ. It's really street sweeping. You're not getting 35,000 tons of just trash. They're picking up sediment, they're picking up all kinds of stuff, but they are picking up trash. However, it's not a bad thing that they're picking up sediment, they're picking up rocks, gravel, stuff like that, because sediment is still considered a pollutant that can have long-term impacts on aquatic life and other wildlife. And we also have even TMDLs that are under basically the sediment and turbidity pollutant, basically. So like there's some of our total maximum daily loads, are basically they're under the for Lake Thunderbird anyways, they're under the sediment and the turbidity pollutant. All right, so here I'm basically showing a map of all of our floatable debris sites that we pretty much have in the city. So we've got 129 active floatable sites, and then we've got 25 active river debris barrier sites. So primarily our floatable sites consist of storm drain inserts, stretch nets, and ring nets. As you can see, there are nets. Pretty much, they're not just collecting just trash, but they're collecting leaves, natural materials, sticks. I mean, everything that's pretty much floating down the creek or down the curb, wherever. And if it gets caught up in there, it's going to get caught. So, so sometimes, you know, we found fence panels, like complete fence panels stuck in these nets. We found mattresses. I mean, we've also had, of course, like dead animals that get caught up in there, moles, snakes. I mean, you name it. And of course, you know, like the nets, they can really get easily ripped and stuff if there's too much debris. They'll break, they'll snap. And then, of course, we also have, if we have homeless camps nearby, they tend to steal our nets. And who knows what they use them for. The stretch nets, they probably tend to use it for some kind of a hammock or something, which would be pretty nice. And then our inlets, they catch quite a bit of trash, but really sometimes we do have problems with them whenever they get kind of clogged up with sediment, like fines, and then they'll tend to start to hold water, and then we'll have to basically go and clean them out. And then here's some of our, I basically put on here like a graph of our stormwater floatable history, how many pounds we've collected over the years. And of course, I'll list on there that the weight of total collected debris for the years depend on staff, equipment, and weather conditions. Currently, you can see in 2020, man, we just didn't have the staff to really conduct all the site visits that we needed to go out there and check them constantly. And we, of course, if we have other obligations, we've got to take care of those obligations too. In 2020, we had just over 1,100 site visits, which to me actually really wasn't bad, considering that half of the year we was pretty much down half our staff. We didn't have any part-time technicians helping us out, and then during 4 months of the year, we was also pretty much all of the technicians was stuck on debris removal from the ice storm. So it really, as you can see, it really dropped our numbers in 2020. But overall, the overall stormwater quality, you know, we've actually collected over 135,000 pounds of floatable trash and debris collected. And this is basically just with our nets, our inlets, ring nets, and stretch nets. And as you can see down at the bottom, you'll see there the 2020 stormwater quality floatable debris totals in pounds. So really, for 2020, we only collected 654 pounds of trash. Like out of all those site visits, only a portion of that was trash, and the rest was natural debris. Most of the time, the natural debris is going to be sediment, rocks, trees. I mean, pretty much anything that's just natural debris that will float in there, and that's going to be the bulk of our weight that we actually get. Here's basically a picture of one of our technicians going through the trash that we collected, and she's just characterizing all of the trash that's within the net. And what we try to we typically try to perform a 10% characterization. And so that's what she's doing. She's just going through there. She's looking at plastic wrappers, aluminum foil, whatever, different kinds of cans. And I pretty much just, for the classification, I pretty much just wrapped it up into something pretty simple, because we actually do have it pretty detailed, but it's not completely detailed. We're not able to classify every piece of trash. For example, really something that we've seen increase just since 2020 is face mask. Something I've never actually seen in any of our nets since I've started. But 2020, we're pretty much getting face mask in most of our net collections, which would be a pretty interesting just to see over, like the next couple of years, how many face masks we actually tend to pull out of these nets and stuff. So we also are in charge of several hydrodynamic separators. We actually kind of check 4. However, only 2 of them are made to really collect floatable debris. And these are the ones I'm going to be talking about, our new Barracuda hydrodynamic vortex separators. And they were installed at the state fairgrounds and just this last May. So they've been working just for a few months. And as you can see in some of the pictures that we have right there, you can actually see what a majority of our the waste that we're getting is some of that straw and hay and stuff from just the horse stalls and stuff. So however, the Barracuda hydrodynamic separators, they really, their main pollutant that they remove is suspended solids or sediment that I was talking about earlier. They will remove oil and greases, but they only have a 51-gallon oil spill capacity. So typically we're checking on them once a month. And as you can see, the picture right, I'll stick a sludge judge down in there to actually assess the water and see how high that sediment level has came up. It does have a screen on the inside of the separator, and that's pretty much what is holding the floatable debris. Now, once the water level gets so high, it really gets pretty close to going over that screen. But once it goes over that screen, the floatable debris will go out. But a lot of times, if it's not flowing that much, and if it doesn't go over the screen, you're going to hold a lot of floatable debris. So I've got a video right here that I'll kind of show you guys what the inside looks like. So there's the screen, and you can kind of see the floatable trash. Now, this is just after a pretty decent rainfall. And really, these hydrodynamic separators, they're really getting a lot of the runoff that's primarily near the horse stalls. So as you can see up on the screen, you can see a lot of the hay and stuff where it's pretty much got close to topping over. So it looks like it hasn't quite made it over that screen. So, and like I said, we just installed these, so we're still kind of figuring out like how well these actually work with collecting floatable debris. The next thing I'd like to talk about is our Lightning Creek Watershed Floatables pilot study project. This is actually a pretty interesting pilot study, but this pilot study really is going to be the framework for which Oklahoma City will use to identify sub-watersheds that will contribute elevated levels of floatable debris. And so basically what we did was we went through there and first we, developed windshield survey techniques. Then we needed to identify subwatersheds contributing the most floatable materials, identify subwatershed infrastructure character. So we're basically looking at manholes or outfalls, whatever's nearby. Then we went through and identified what's going to be the best available structural BMP placement. So for this watershed, we were really looking at a hydrodynamic separator placement. And then, of course, we put together like a cost associated with this project implementation. So we went through and we started ranking the streets, the trash level along the streets and curb lines. And we ranked them as high, medium, and low. Low would be like 3 to 5 pieces of floatable trash in the curb lines, and then medium was 5 to 10, and then high was greater than 10 pieces of trash. After that was done, then we basically went through and we just ranked the sub basin as a whole as either high, medium, and low. And then once we did that, we assessed the pre-selected storm sewers where we wanted to basically put the BMPs. And the storm sewers were really selected in the lowest portion of each sub-basin based on the watershed characteristics or the GIS infrastructure information. We also took, several notes, measurements to basically help determine the suitability for the selected BMP. They were also ranked on ease of access. How easy are we going to be able to open up these storm sewer lids and get a contractor in here to clean out these separators. Once we did that, we decided, all right, well, now we need to basically try to see if we can repeat our method. If our like us going through there, ranking the streets and stuff, if we was actually correct. So we went through and we're like, all right, so let's select 4 sites to determine the repeatability of the method. And as we selected those sites, really they didn't go as well as planned. There was some homeless camps nearby and they started stealing all of our nets. We put them out there several times, go back and like the next day and they were gone. And then of course, our nets would just completely rip from large debris, which this is, just right after the big ice storm. So people were cutting, logs and trees and throwing them into the drainage there. And as basically as any rainfall came, I mean, you would get a half of a tree in one of those nets and they would be completely ripped up. Also, we kind of realized like we were putting some of these sites like we put them actually like way past our BMP location. So where we wanted to put our hydrodynamic separator. So we're like, all right, so really most of these leaves, most of these trees could be coming from below our BMP location. So we really needed to we really needed to put these nets or some kind of net or inlet or whatever like above these BMPs to actually determine the correct method. And so anyways, so next step, we needed to reevaluate the repeatability of the method. So our next moves are primarily going to be trying to hire a part-time employee to work on the project full-time. So this is going to be a project that's going to just dedicate a lot of time, and we just have too many projects that we're dealing with. So I really want to end up hiring someone part-time to work on this full-time. So next thing, once we get a part-time person hired, we're basically going to monitor the areas above the determined BMP site. And so we're going to distinguish where the floatable trash is really entering the in-ground storm sewer. We're going to start determine the number of inlets per acre in the subbasin, figure out like the percent of watershed that actually enters those inlets. And then we're going to randomly choose what inlets we want to actually monitor. Once we put those inlets in, we start monitoring, then we're going to evaluate our methodology and see if it actually did come up with the same as our windshield survey methodology. So it's a pretty interesting pilot study, but once we tweak everything out, it'll be pretty interesting because, like I said earlier, this is going to be the framework of going through and looking at all of our other watersheds within the city that contribute most trash to our waterways. We also deal with the waterway clean sweep, which Brooke, she typically goes over this like towards the end, and I don't want to steal too much of her thunder. So I'll just go through this real quick. Basically, the program started in 2016. We've had 26 total events since then. 24,000 pounds were collected and 1,000 bags collected. We've had a total of 422 volunteers with this program, and the volunteer value is actually based at around $18,000, which is pretty impressive that we're getting for free from these volunteers. And what's awesome about this waterway clean sweep is this is primarily picking up trash. I mean, just straight trash. We're not picking up trees. We're not picking up logs or sediment. I mean, this is primarily 99% trash that we're finding that's just been littered, thrown out, you name it. So in this event, as you can see, really there wasn't that many volunteers here, and we collected 812 pounds of material right here. So the smallest weight we've ever had was 281 pounds for an event, and then the largest one we've ever had was just over 3,100 pounds. And we've had groups up to 50 people, and then small groups down to 4 people volunteer. So just depending on if you want to get out and volunteer, Brooke would be the person to contact, and we would love to have anyone come out and volunteer. And I put the picture of my kid on the right. She actually came out and helped me, and she did a pretty good job. And then I brought my family. This was one that we really didn't have that many people coming out. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna get my whole family out here, and we're just gonna help volunteer and stuff. And they really enjoyed it. So the next slide that I'll be talking about is our river debris barriers. And the history behind it was back in 2007, we had extreme rain events, and they contributed just a unreal amount of floatable debris in the Oklahoma River. And they estimated around 224,000 cubic yards to have accumulated in coves, inlets along the river. And basically that set up our program to like purchase these river debris barriers. And so council it was just an eyesore everywhere, and then they were having problems going in and collecting all of this material. So we needed to have some kind of barrier to keep this debris from going into these inlets, coves, to where we wouldn't have all this debris accumulated again as in 2007. So this is where our river debris barriers really got started. And as you can see, this I literally just went out and took pictures of. So trash, it's, it'll pile up along the riprap. You'll see it just in the waterways, eddies. And then of course we have sewer lines. So they'll pretty much be blocking a lot of this trash, but it is unreal the amount of trash that will come down from these watersheds. And these river debris barriers, they're one of our best defenses to keeping this trash from going downriver. And this is where the Oklahoma River Maintenance Crew comes into play. We pretty much have a collaborative effort between stormwater quality, the environmental section, and the Oklahoma River Maintenance Crew. So my section is primarily responsible for the maintenance of the booms, making sure they're kind of tied up, that they're not floating all over the place. We're responsible for also purchasing new booms whenever old ones need to be retired. And the Oklahoma River Maintenance Crew, they're responsible for keeping the channel clear of debris. However, that's not just their only responsibility, just like how floatables isn't just our only responsibility. So the river debris barriers, they're beneficial for stopping floatable debris and other pollutants from entering the main channel. You can see in the top right, or both pictures on the right, they're really blocking. You've got oil the top right is actually a diesel spill that came from OU, and that just happened this winter basically. So and these river debris barriers can really stop a lot of these pollutants from entering the main channel. So it's really interesting that they really provide kind of a dual purpose, not just for trash, but other materials from entering that main channel. And of course, heavy rain events will detach our barriers. Our barriers are just held in by anchor plates. Eventually, we'd like to upgrade into something more stable, to where they can hold a little bit more weight, to where the river debris barriers won't just pull off. We also deal with people stealing our chains, stealing our equipment, you name it. We've had beavers chew through the rubber between the floats, and then we'll go through there and repair it. We've also had random just personnel that will remove our barrier attachments to really access the main body or the inlets. And this is primarily with, like, if people have boat ramps or something that's in the inlets and they can't get out, so they'll end up tying a string or something onto our barrier, and then next thing we'll know, we'll find it all wrapped up on the side after a storm event that's came through. So really, this is the Oklahoma River Maintenance Crew. They have one supervisor, one crew chief, and two crew workers. And these were pictures I recently just took as I went out there. I had a really awesome experience with them. They're really hard workers, and they do a great job on the river. Some really big changes that most people don't know about, but the Oklahoma River Maintenance Crew, they were really under the Streets Traffic and Drainage Maintenance division, and so they had other priorities that they were responsible for. So they weren't really dedicated 100% to the Oklahoma River, but they would come back and they would go out there and clear out the debris when necessary. But like I said, there's big changes happening to where hopefully they will become their own division, and they'll be able to be on the river 24/7, and I'm real excited to see the progress that they're going to make with being able to be their own division. It's just an endless possibility, hopefully, of how far they can go with this. Now, of course, their other priorities include keeping the dams operational. They keep the channel clear of debris. They're also taking care of dredging the channel, and they assist with other assignments. They've went out and done diesel and oil spills. And you'll typically always see them out there. They're always doing something out there. Here's a couple of videos I took just to show you kind of how they're pulling material out of the channel and stuff with their skimmer boats. Basically, they have to put most of this material in another boat because their skimmer boat really just doesn't have enough room to carry all of that debris, and which you can see in some of the pictures that I have. They've already got some debris already under in that skimmer boat, and these boats, they're real just that. All right, so on here, pretty much this is the river maintenance floatable debris history. You can see, I mean, we are the small guys on the totem pole. They pretty much out collect us. I mean, it's unreal how much debris they can collect with their equipment. So since 2008, we collected 60 tons, and they've collected 3,000 tons. So just clearing out the river channel. I mean, the river crew is, I mean, they're needed so much on the river. I mean, we barely put a dent into what they can actually get accomplished in one day. Really, I think we was talking about it, and they can almost get around 2 tons a day almost. So like within a couple weeks, they're already like pushing past what we can get done really in several years. Tons collected by division in 2020. Last year we collected the 3.2 tons, and then they collected 109 tons. So like I said, they're the big dogs, and we're just the little guys just catching a ride. We're just there watching them pretty much, but they really have a awesome impact on the river, and without them, there's no telling what the river would look like. So really what I learned just from spending the morning with them is, like I said, they're a great crew. They really want to take care of this river channel. The services they provide are imperative to controlling the floatable debris along the Oklahoma River. And as I was there, you have people that's coming up to them and they're asking them like, hey, do you mind, trying to take care of this on the river? Or do you mind trying to get this? Especially the river sport adventures. I mean, they really depend on them to clear those waterways and stuff. And there's all kinds of activities and that occur within that stretch of river. I mean, they've got the holiday boat parade to the Bricktown Nationals drag boat races. And I think everyone knows that like we're the rowing venue, now home to the Olympic and Paralympic training facilities. 2015, We hosted the Olympic trials. And of course, we've got the Wheeler District Ferris wheel that's now along the river. Then you've got the Oklahoma River cruises that's going up and down the river. So maintaining the river and just keeping it clear of debris, making sure it's operational. I mean, they've got a big task in front of them, and they do a really good job. Whenever I was out there, man, they were on it. And it didn't take no time at all for them to fill up that boat. And I mean, they're just going. But I definitely appreciate them letting me go out there and just spending the morning with them, because it was something to see for sure. And that's pretty much it. I did put a picture on there just showing everyone some of our new personnel here. We put our biggest guy in this this little life jacket here, so that's why he's smiling. So
That's good stuff, Dawson. Wow. And thank you so much for an amazing presentation. Such great information, very interesting. I can tell you put a lot of work into that presentation. So thank you so much for that. And thank you to your staff and Jess, your staff, for keeping our waterway just a little bit cleaner. I didn't see any questions in chat, so we'll just dive right into Brooke's presentation. She has a quick presentation about some of our local volunteer programs. And if anyone does have any questions for Dawson or the River Crew, just type those into chat anytime, and we'll still get to those. So Dawson, if you'd hang on for a little bit, thank you.
Dawson, could you unshare your screen so I can share mine?
no.
Thank you. And I'll actually just go ahead and get started while I'm working on getting this to share. I don't know if it's going to let me today or not. It says only meeting organizers and presenters can share, but I should be a presenter.
Oh, no, I saw that you're actually an attendee, which is weird. Let me get you put in there.
Okay, well, I'll start talking anyway. We do have a couple new things for outreach. Since the season is changing, the outreach requirements are changing with it. And so I'm going to talk about a couple new things that are going on. And let's get this started. Okay, can you view that?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so we've talked about in the past some volunteer programs that we have, but outreach also is in charge of a lot of school education presentations. We do some assemblies, different school events, career days at colleges, Earth Day we participate in a lot. And then this year and last year, we created some distance learning videos and some Zoom classroom visits. So unfortunately, we are going to have to do that again this year with COVID. The schools are not letting outside personnel into the classrooms, but they are back in person. So we're going to be doing some online video and supplemental supplies resources. So our goal is to create and support lessons that meet the current curriculum standards that teach elementary and secondary education. Our main goal is to promote only water down the storm drains. So with our COVID-19 outreach changes, we're open to all ages, and our lessons coincide directly with our current curriculum standards. So our 3rd grade lesson is a water quality experiment. 4th grade lesson is sediment erosion, and 5th grade is water pollution. And all of these video lessons come with an optional supplemental experiment kit for each student to participate in a hands-on learning experience. So we're keeping our outreach opportunities flexible for this year. If the schools change their policies, then we may be able to get back into the schools, but at this point, we're only doing virtual right now. Our 2021 goal is to reach 2,500 students. And then, as we've talked about previously, we have our 3 volunteer programs, Adopt a City Street, Waterway Clean Sweep, which Dawson talked about a little bit, and our Curbs to Creek. So I won't talk too much about those, but if you're interested in getting involved in any of those, feel free to reach out to me. We do have a open Waterway Clean Sweep date coming up. It's going to be September 10th. And if anyone wants to volunteer to participate in that cleanup day, it's a Friday. It's going to be Friday morning, and we're looking for more volunteers to help. So these are some of our highlights for the year so far, with pounds collected for some of our previous cleanups for Waterway. And then I will end it short today. Any additional information, volunteer opportunities, questions, feel free to reach out to me. I know we are out of time, but thank you so much for joining us today, and let me know if you have any questions.
Great. Thanks, Brooke, so much. I have put your contact information into chat as well. But feel free to leave that slide up for a little while if you like.
Oh, I just unshared, sorry.
Oh, that's fine. But your email is in our chat, so feel free to reach out to Brooke if you'd like to volunteer for that September cleanup. Okay, as a reminder, if anyone would like to receive a certificate of attendance for today's presentation, please send Heavenly an email to request it. We do ask that you don't request certificates in chat because we may not have your email address tied to your username on Teams, but Heavenly should be able to get those certificates out this week. So I've put her email address into chat again for everyone. And as I've mentioned, a recording of today's presentation will be available on our website in the next few days. So I'm going to put that link into chat for you now. And thank you. Thank everyone. Thank you all for attending today's session. Thank you to our presenter and the folks that helped get that presentation ready to go. We hope everyone enjoyed today's presentation. We'll hopefully see you next month on September 21st at 1 p.m. for the next installment in our Floatables webinar series. The presentation will discuss information from the City of Oklahoma City's Utilities Water Conservation Program, in addition to information about trash and litter from Waste Management's Environmental Consulting Group that they've hired. It's called Simply Stormwater. That's simply with an I. Have a great afternoon, and hope to see you next month. I'll hang out here if anyone has any questions for the next few minutes. But if you don't have any questions, don't forget to hit that leave button in the top right-hand corner, that red button. Thanks again.